How does life feel? Prince Ghazi of Jordan, in his delightful book, The Thinking Person's Guide to the Happy Life, gives this succinct answer. How does life actually feel? Well, how will it always feel? God answers this very simply in the Qur'an. We certainly created man for toil and trial. God also says, surely we will try you with something of fear and hunger and diminution of goods and lives, yet give good tidings to the patient. In other words, Prince Ghazi writes, it's going to feel tough, at least sometimes, for everyone, even royal princes, no matter how wealthy, clever or pious, since everyone will die, and everyone has loved ones that will die and feel the diminution of lives. The trials of life are not something that happen by accident and without meaning. Again, as unpalatable as this may sound to modern people like us, with our sense of self-entitlement, life is supposed to have these trials. To repeat that, life is supposed to have these trials, writes the prince. This is part of the human condition. It tests our sincerity and hence our patience and virtue, both as God's servants and as his vice-regents. As God says in the Qur'an, do people suppose that they will be left to say, we believe? In other words, we believe in God, yeah. And they will not be tried? And certainly we have tried those who were before them. So God will surely know those who are sincere, and he shall surely know those who are liars. Or do those who commit evil deeds suppose that they can elude us? Evil is that which they judge. Whoever hopes to encounter God should know that God's appointed time will indeed come, and he is the hearer, the knower. And whoever struggles only for his own soul, for truly God is independent of the creatures of all the worlds. End quote from the Quran there. In fact, it is the trials of life and our struggle, that's jihad in Arabic, with our own egos that determine the state of our own souls. I think that's a wonderful summary there of the Quran's teaching. And when I first read that, it immediately occurred to me that teaching resembles very, very closely the teachings of one of the best-selling books of all time in the United States by an American psychiatrist, Scott Peck. Now, this book, The Road Less Traveled, has sold millions and millions of copies. And of course, I've got my copy. And in page 1, it says this. I just want to read it to you in the light of what we've just read here. So this is a top, famous, celebrated American psychiatrist talking about the same issue, about life. He says, in the very first opening words are this. I don't even have to look at the book. Life is difficult. That's the first sentence. This is a great truth, one of the greatest truths. And then at the bottom here as a note, the first of the 4 noble truths which Buddha taught was, life is suffering. It is a great truth because once we truly see this truth, we transcend it. Once we truly know that life is difficult, in other words, that it is made up, our conditions are made up of these trials, of this testing that the Quran talks about. Once we truly understand and accept it, then life is no longer difficult, because once it is accepted, the fact that life is difficult no longer matters, says Scott Peck. Most do not fully see this truth, that life is difficult, and I can testify at times to having been this way myself. Instead, I moan more or less incessantly, noisily or subtly about the enormity of their problems, their burdens and their difficulties, as if life were generally easy, as if life should be easy. They voice their belief, noisily or subtly, that their difficulties represent a unique kind of affliction that should not be, and that has somehow been especially visited upon them, or else upon their families, their tribe, their class, their nation, their race, or even their species, and not upon others. I know about this moaning, writes Scott Peck, because I have done my share. Life is a series of problems. Do we want to moan about them or solve them? Do we want to teach our children to solve them? And then he goes on to explain what the set of tools are that we need to solve life's problems. And I won't share that with you. You can read it in his book. So I just wanted to share that fascinating. There's a difference. This guy's a secular American psychiatrist. Of course, Prince Ghazi is a Muslim, writing for Muslims and for a general audience. And yet, it's interesting, the psychiatrist and the philosopher broadly converge on the diagnosis of the human condition, the realities of our life, and the illusions that we have about life, that life shouldn't be difficult, that there shouldn't be problems. And actually, if you read both books, they do point towards a very similar solution to that as well. Anyway, just thought I'd share that with you. Till next time.